Good afternoon, everyone again. Welcome to this pitch session. I hope you all had a very interesting work session this afternoon. We're going to get 3 judges on stage that will judge your pitch session, and in the end we will vote one that will be helped in more detail to bring you all closer to the market. So we have 3 judges for you that we selected carefully, so they're all very complementary in their expertise. The first one I want to present to you is Eelco Kruizinga from DNV.
Thank you, Leen. Indeed, my name is Eelco Kruizinga. Let me briefly introduce myself. Some of you may know myself as one of the matchmakers of the marketplace, European Smart City Marketplace. But before that, actually, way back, I have a background in artificial intelligence. So in the late 80s, early 90s, I studied artificial intelligence at the University of Amsterdam, and then I co-founded the Dutch Center for Knowledge Technology.
Okay, Eelco, thank you for that. By the way, that was even a history I didn't even know. Then I want to bring on Daniela. And Daniela is from ICLEI.
Thank you very much, Leen. Thank you very much for your introduction. Today, I am representing the Covenant of Mayors, the European Covenant of Mayors. And just for your information, I am working at the Covenant in the monitoring, reporting, and evaluation task group of the organization. For the ones that are not familiar, the European Covenant of Mayors is an organization that works together with cities globally and especially in Europe to drive climate and energy ambitions. And we support cities to reach their climate and energy targets. And that's why I'm here, and also that's why I'm motivated to participate in this pitch, because I think that I look forward to listen how smart technologies can contribute to the different goals that cities worldwide, and especially here in Europe, are establishing to reach these famous low carbon neutrality targets. And of course, we think that with the support of technology, we will be able to reach it faster than expected. So I am here to listen to these wonderful ideas. Thanks for inviting us.
And then we bring on Rudy. Rudy Roth is, in this case, representing the project Atelier from the city of Amsterdam, I think. But Rudy is one of our most experienced judges on smart cities already since decades. So Rudy, present yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Leen. Indeed, I'm currently working for the municipality of Amsterdam in the Department of Sustainability and Spatial Planning. Before that, I was working in the same company as Eelco, DNVGL, and during that period, I have been involved in a series of sustainable and smart city projects from about 2005. So I'm happy to be invited here, and I'm looking forward to the pitch.
Okay, so all of you, thank you for being here. We have another 5 to 7 minutes that I'm going to question a few, that I'm going to ask a few questions to each of you to show the others what the expertise is that we have available. And Rudy, when looking also into your CV, I saw that you already were working with smart vehicles, for example, in 2004, something like that. So if you go back to that, remember the pitches we had with Citizen on the things that went wrong. What is the most, afterwards seen, the most incredible thing that failed? Or the most memorable failure that you had in these early projects?
In these early projects? Well, you've taken me by surprise.
Yes,
can I think a little bit about that?
Yeah,
and
you
then
can
you come
think
back
about
to me?
that. Yeah. Eelco, did you have one of these things where you tried with DNV something for the very first time in a smart cities context and said afterwards we should have known? You're muted.
Maybe not directly in a smart cities context, but it's really had to do with social welfare. Actually, it was a city related to the city of Amsterdam. So we tried to build this knowledge-based artificial intelligence system, with all kinds of rules in there, intelligent algorithms, and then we deployed it into a prototype environment with a real department and stuff like that. And I remember that it was really around applying certain rules around social welfare, and the person then said, trying to use this, the system says, but this is complete nonsense. I already see the solution because the person is sitting in front of me. So we really didn't have a clue of applying the artificial intelligence within the workplace itself. So we were just too detached from reality in a sense. So the lesson I learned there was really about engagement with the users, but not only the users, but also the context in which the users would perform the job, basically.
Daniela, did you have one of these things to remember? Lessons learned from a failure? Yeah.
Yes, especially in this issue of smart cities, because I have this environmental and climate background. So when I started to work in different smart city projects, for me it was very challenging to to turn all the benefits that the technology could bring into emissions numbers. You see how much really a smart technology is really reducing emissions. So this has been an effort that the industry and cities are working for so long, and we had to learn specifically within the Covenant of Mayors and everything, that it's very important to work together with the different stakeholders, because sometimes the smart city project comes only from the technology side, and the environment and climate guys, we are not in the discussion. But now I have learned for sure that we have to work together in order to assess correctly the benefits and the impacts of smart technologies.
Sure. For sure. Rudy.
Yeah. Well, in one of the first projects, we had an element that was related to district heating, and we as we needed in that kind of demonstration project, we wanted to have technology on one hand that was readily available in order to be able to implement it, but it also needed to be innovative.
Yeah.
And so we had an element in this district heating scheme of a small company that had invented something very special, but actually nobody really understood it. And well, in the end, it appeared that it was a failure because it was not accepted, as nobody could understand what would happen if that would be installed. So since then, I'm more keen on, let's say, more down to innovative, but down to earth solutions if you want to demonstrate in a real world.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, just to wrap this one up, remember, Rudy, when we tried the vehicle to grid charging pole in Amsterdam, and people turned it off at midnight, and then Alliander trying to figure out why it was turned off each time at midnight, and it turned out it made too much noise, the ventilator in it. But it was such an interesting case to see, okay, how far do you actually go to understand the things? So there was a guy from Alliander really sitting in his car to see what is physically happening. Why does it start exactly at midnight? Until they figured out it was the guy living in the apartment just on top of the charger. So what we're going to do today is have the pitches presented, and each of the judges is going to give an idea on the different pitches that are presented. There's a lead judge each time because they have complementary expertise. So what we're going to try to give back to you as pitchers is really an expert judgment on what you've been working on. We have all of you in coming one after the other. You have 5 minutes to present your pitch, and then the judges have 5 minutes to come back to that. And then I will present the next group. So you will see also the ones coming later. We'll see the good and the bad things about the previous ones and might still adapt something, but we'll take that into account. And then afterwards, they will discuss amongst themselves who's going to be the winner. And the prize is a 2-hour workshop with the matchmakers to really advance the best pitch to the next stage and help it making more mature and bringing it closer to the market. So I think we can start with the first pitch. The first pitch that we would like to bring on stage is the Gaia X data rooms for mobility. So I would like to welcome that team. There we go. So good luck. You have 5 minutes to present your pitch.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to pitch to you. Olaf and I are from Urban Software Institute, and as mentioned, we'll talk about Gaia X data spaces or data rooms for mobility. I'd just like to start by saying that we had a great workshop, very lively with lots of ideas, and potentially, and you can see this actually on the left side under key partners, this will serve for certain for building collaborations with multiple partners on this topic in some of the upcoming EU calls like Horizon Europe. So with that in mind, I had the business model canvas put up there, but I'll just talk in general and point to some key points as we go along. So first, just to provide some context and background very quickly before discussing our proposal here. As you all know, cities need mobility data for various reasons. One of the ones that we're specifically interested in is, for example, smart urban mobility planning. If you're familiar with the SUMP concept, and so there's, in order to do efficient planning, you need data. It turns out there is actually, as we can see, massive mobility out there that's growing by the minute. The problem that we see is that a lot of this mobility data is siloed because of concerns of data sharing, the privacy, the commercial sensitivities when you're sharing such data, and so. Really what's needed is something to bring that data together so you can do something useful, break down the silos, so to speak. And so in parallel, this is now the second half, Gaia X, which some of you may be familiar with, is a European program for cloud and data services, which establishes data spaces for secure and trusted data exchange and guaranteeing data sovereignty. And this is exactly what's needed in order to be able to advance the use of this large corpus of mobility data that's out there and can be used. So what we're proposing here is basically an EU-wide Gaia X mobility domain data space for mobility data sharing. And once you have that data shared, you can enable new services, for example, or services that are supported by AI-based analytics. Specific examples could be intermodal routing, EV charging optimizations, and the like. And this can now be done among multiple stakeholders where without Gaia X and without the safeguards of data, trusted data and data sovereignty would be pretty much impossible to do. So we're proposing with this Gaia X approach to break down the silos and allow the cities to get a consolidated view of all mobility-related activities. And so the main bullet point here is shared urban data for better sustainable urban mobility, both for planning, monitoring, and other purposes. But it's not only for that, because once you have this data infrastructure and the advanced services on top of it, there's actually other stakeholders that could benefit. For instance, enabling commercial data exchange between, for example, transport operators that can now share their data in a way that they control which pieces of the data can be used and for what purposes. And so even if there's commercial sensitivities, but because there's competition between two entities, using Gaia-X, this can be overcome. So what sources of data are we talking about? We're talking about mobility data that's directly related to mobility, for example, transport operator data. So we're talking about public transit data, whether it's real-time bus schedules, etc. And also, you know, today there's shared mobility, there's micro-mobility, there's transport on demand. They all produce data, sometimes of different format and different content. So that's one source of data. There's what's called floating car data and traffic data, parking, charging, all discussed during our workshop today, but also I would say cross-domain data like environmental data that has to do with air quality and weather, which can also impact some of the urban mobility planning and some of the other use cases that are needed. And some of this is covered in the key resources section here in our business model canvas. In terms of, so once you have this data infrastructure and you have your data sources, really part of the Gaia-X upper layer is what's called smart services or advanced smart services, which can be, again, things that have to do maybe with intermodal trip planning. We've discussed visualizations that can be shown on 3D models of cities, which can very easily be shown to decision makers to understand what's going on in their city as regards mobility. And really in one... Yes.
Just a quick reminder. So 5 minutes are almost over. I
Yeah.
already did Lynn to the stage. So just you can definitely come to a finish in the next minute. That would
very good. I am just at the end. Our core main objectives here is in the short term a funding scheme that is needed for further development of the core idea. What you will see that is that I have not covered here and requires more thought and development is a sustainable business model, monetization of the data. Of course, there are general things that you can say about monetizing the data and the smart data that is produced by the smart services, but we feel that this needs to be worked out. And the second objective is to leverage existing efforts. There's already some mobility data spaces out there, which we intend to use as a sort of blueprint. I'm mentioning two in Germany. One is called Reallabor Hamburg, which will the results will be presented in the ITS World Congress in Hamburg in October. Another one is Data Space Mobility. And those are existing efforts that we intend to use as a blueprint or a template to kickstart our work on this. Thank you.
Okay, Gadi and Olaf, although Olaf, you haven't said a lot. Thank you for that pitch. I would like to bring the judges on. And then Ilko, Daniela, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you very much, Gadi, for the presentation. I also had the opportunity to read the fact sheet, and I am so happy to hear that that you have considered the use of Gaia, especially to support sustainable urban mobility plans development. That is something that, from a climate and energy planning perspective, especially supported by the Covenant of Mayors, I think that is a key thing that all our cities are needing in order to advance in effective plans. So far, cities have developed a lot of sustainable urban mobility plans or strategies, only focus on the transport part, but sometimes the climate, energy, or air quality and other sustainability benefits are not considered in this planning process. So I think that that is a very important point of your project, that you are considering the contribution to the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan. That is key for urban sustainability. Another thing that I really like from your presentation, and also from your from the fact sheet itself, is that you mentioned that you are going to build the solution over existing data, and that is very important. It's a very important thing, because sometimes we think that there is not enough data to build the things, but we all know, especially more than me, that I come from an environmental background, but you coming from the technical side, there's a lot of data. In fact, probably there's lots of data, and sometimes the data are not being analyzed properly and not used properly. So I think that is one thing that I value a lot from your proposal, that you are using existing sources of data. I really encourage you also to find not only transport and mobility data, but also include other social or environmental data that could also be complementary to do your assessments and establish the different modeling scenarios. You mentioned air quality. That is something that from an European level and globally is taking every time more relevance. So mapping transport together with air quality, that is one of the key issues that currently cities are looking into that. And also don't forget about noise, because noise is another indicator or environmental quality related to transport. In terms of the impact of transport in greenhouse gas emissions on a city level, as I said before, you know that transport sometimes in cities is the first or the second major source of emissions on the different cities. So it's very important that any solution that addresses mobility also have to be related to how it is going to contribute to the emissions reductions in the city. So I really encourage you, if possible, in the next phase of your project, also to have some dialogue with cities to see how Gaia can be, used by them, not by the technical team, but also working together with environment departments, the climate departments, and of course the transport department. And the last thing that I saw also very relevant, and I saw it in your canvas also, you mentioned that your beneficiaries are the citizens. And that is one of your beneficiaries are the citizens. And that is something that also from an urban planning perspective and a sustainable urban mobility process, if we don't reach the citizens with good information, with good data that can be easily understood by them, the shifts that we need for changing from one mobility pattern to another, this could probably not be achieved. So don't forget also to include also the visualization part and how to make it easier for the citizens to understand their mobility reality and the sustainability component of their behavior. So in that sense, I congratulations for your project, for the idea, and I really hope that it will continue growing, and hopefully cities will adopt it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, thank you for the hints. That's quite useful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniela, for that. Gadi, I also put a company in the chat window that might be relevant to link to with regards to valorization of data. And then thank you, everyone, for this pitch. We move on to the next pitch, which will be with Graham on smart lighting. So Graham, you got 5 minutes of fame here to present your idea.
Hi, folks. Hi, Rudy. It's good to see you again. There's a wonderful graphic which Agatha produced, which I don't know whether it's feasible to put up, but if not, you're going to have to suffer my face. So apologies for that. So our conversation, I don't think it would be fair to say it would translate into a pitch that an investor would be excited about, but it was still a valuable conversation. In essence, the humble lamppost should be a smart city quick win. It should be something which allows cities to move forward with confidence and can then stimulate further action. If we don't do a few things smart, and quickly, then we certainly won't achieve the SDGs by 2030 that we plan. So the conversation in terms of smart lampposts as opposed to smart lighting is important. So what's happening at the moment in the market is that cities are upgrading their upgrading their lights to LED. Important message is strong return on investment. However, almost invariably, they're doing it at a scale. Splendid. That's the pretty graphic. So they're almost invariably doing it at a scale which is not anywhere close to the optimum economy of scope and scale. So we're losing value as a result of that. We're also, therefore, losing 200 million euros a week, 200 million euros a week across Europe by not taking action to upgrade the lighting. But if you upgrade the lighting only, you're missing out on enormous opportunities to multi-purpose this infrastructure, to make it smart infrastructure. And in essence, that's what the opportunity is. And so what we're seeking to do through the initiative is to not do it in terms of bit by bit, at small scale, city by city, always starting from first principles. We're trying to actually do it through packaging up the solution, which will give confidence, which will give a cheaper solution and a faster and better solution for cities, and therefore open up the opportunity of scale. The model or the metaphor we're using is that of Lego, component-based, interoperable. It does not mean one size fits all. It means that you can use the various different components and tailor that to the local circumstances. So it can be taking a lamppost and tailoring the use cases you need for the central business district, which would, for instance, not include electric vehicle charging, because you don't want lots of cars right in the middle of a busy town, as opposed to the leafy suburbs, where indeed electric vehicle charging may be very, very valuable. So you can then start to actually take that interoperable, standard component-based functional approach and tailor it to your local context. So that's the concept of packaging that we're talking through. The conversation basically came up with two useful messages and one particular view in terms of the driver. So the pressure and drivers, most cities have got very old infrastructure, more than 25 years old, which means that the expensive part, the pole, needs to be changed fairly soon. So that's a good pressure specific to that infrastructure. The second one was that it was an observation that said cities have kind of done smart cities in terms of fashion, pilotitis, as opposed to trying to make smart cities business as usual. So we need to shift from ballerina type of let's prove that we can do a nice dance to actually shifting towards real solid scale smart city solutions. And there's a sense that there's a shift in the marketplace in that cities are taking smart cities seriously. The third one was in terms of the financial case, continuous financial burden, recognition through COVID. We need data. Data can be provided by a network of lampposts, and a push towards what is a strong business case in terms of upgrading the lighting and doing more to connect smart lighting and smart infrastructure to actually provide multiple value-added services. And the fourth observation was the shift towards energy transition. And clearly this is one of those opportunities where you can get a 50% saving on energy and maintenance, so therefore get a very bankable project as a result of that. Conversation came up with two useful additional thoughts, and I have one idea. The first was that of communicating to city leaders, not just what you can do with a rather boring lamppost right now, what you might be able to do in 5 years' time and what you might be able to do in 10 years' time. So articulating that roadmap in a way that it helps cities understand how they move from smart lighting, so changing to LED and connected lighting, all the way through to value-added services. Point number one.
Okay,
Point number two,
Graham, we're 2 minutes beyond or 5 minutes. Can you wrap up in 20 seconds?
Yes. Point number two is to capture some structured evidence-based cases. And the idea is to use, to get the investors to incentivize demand aggregation.
Yeah, super. Then I would like to bring the judges on, Ilko, Rudy, and Daniela, and get your opinions.
I will come first if you allow me. Because Graham, I think that I agree with you that that the smart lighting is a quick win for sustainability. I think that the smart lighting technologies has been there for so long, and we really think that from a urban sustainability perspective, we still have not realized all the benefits it can bring to the cities. We know that most of the cities are doing this change of the old bulbs into the LED. Most cities are undercarrying that process, but believe it or not all of them account very good the benefits of this on the long term. Yeah, and not all cities are including the smart lighting technologies or the lighting changes into their sustainable urban, sustainable energy and climate action plans. So that is one thing that I would like you to reflect, and probably when you are continue doing your research, that also try to look several sustainable energy and climate action plans that cities have developed, and you will see how cities approach the issue of smart lighting in their plans. As I said before, there is a very few cities that have officially included a smart lighting into their CCAP, and of course, I think that is one thing that we see that is going to have more impact in the future now that there is enough data in order to replicate the measures. Secondly, another thing that also probably you would be interested to explore further is how smart lighting, and this is also another thing that cities are thinking about, is how smart lighting contribute to making better the public space. Okay, lighting could really enhance the use of different public spaces. Also safety issues, also the role of smart lighting is being recognized by several governments, but still there are very few innovation projects on this matter. Another thing that also will be probably good to explore is how you can integrate also the smart lighting on the Humboldt Post. Also, we have some cases with the 5G technology that is coming. Also, cities are preparing for the deployment of this infrastructure. So probably it's also good to evaluate that. But I think that you've covered all the wonderful things that the smart lighting bring to cities. And I think that your project is very interesting, and all the cities would be glad to build a little more on the smart lighting. That's all on my side. I don't know if Elko or Rudy would like to contribute.
Well, I would like to comment too, and it's not so much on the technology of the smart lighting and so on, but now that I'm working for a municipality myself, I know a little bit about budgeting, etc. in these municipal organizations, and unfortunately, I must say it's not so let's say integrated maybe as one would like. So within a municipality, there is in many cases there is this kind of split incentive that the one who is paying the electricity bill, for example, is not the one that needs to maintain the public furniture or the infrastructure, which is well, it sounds silly, but it is a real real issue. So I would recommend, or maybe you did already do that, but in the future development, address these kind of things, or maybe start thinking about how this could be solved by copying financing schemes from other types of organizations that maybe have a more commercial attitude to this than a municipality.
Okay. Thank you for that. So Graham, a lot of lively interaction on that. I really liked also the idea of diving into good examples and trying to convince stakeholders with good examples. So thank you for that. And then we bring on the next one, which is Paul Kartavels. So Paul, indeed, be ready to come up with your presentation. Yeah, there you are. So it's about positive energy districts. It's a hot topic. So go and sell yourself in the next 5 minutes.
Just let me the time to find the, where is my presentation? Here. Voila, do you have my screen?
Not yet. You can, when you click on the share sign below.
Yes, I did share.
Yes, yes, just a second. Not yet, so maybe you can try again.
And
if not, maybe we can also. I have it ready potentially here as well.
Oh, I'm losing my. Oh, come on. Oh, this is not the right one.
Sometimes it's a little complicated because we have different tools, of course. I'll see if I have it ready. So maybe.
Wait. I'm coming back to the stream.
Oh, perfect.
And
no,
I had it just before. I will put it again. Mm-hmm. Wait.
No
it's
problem.
This one. This one. Do you have it or not?
I have the Word document. You share it.
No, it's.
But my colleague will put it up. So just a second. We will. No problem. So is it this one?
No, it's a slide with a picture with urban village on it. I will put it back. Voila, this is my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I put it on my screen. Can you recuperate this or not? I'm sorry for the delay.
No
I thought
problem.
it would be simpler.
I cannot share your screen. You have to share your screen.
Yeah, and it's my screen. I'm watching my presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try again with from the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Every time.
Is it the one you see on the screen here?
I'm looking for.
So on the screen where your image is it that one?
It doesn't appear. It doesn't appear in my Windows. I don't know why. This is very strange.
So in the tool you're in now, is it there? So the live stream you're in now. So it should be right next to your picture.
My time is almost finished.
No problem.
Otherwise, I will just read what I have to say if I cannot share my screen. But it's a shame. We work.
We see the right image. So Han confirmed it to me as well in the backstage. So you can just start your pitch. So we see
yes, you have the image.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so let me start. Sorry for the delay, but I'll be as short as possible. So I think the move we wanted to make with the Positive Energy District is to definitely bring them into the vision for 2030 and 2050 and adapt it. So our project has a name. It is called the Urban Village. And it also has a future, Green Deal ready label that we would like him to have. This is really important. So basically you can go to the second slide, Han, or whoever is managing the screen. Do you have this engaging in planning or not?
Yes, we do have the engaging in planning. We see your slide.
Engaging in planning. Okay. So basically, the few steps we want to bring forward. The first one is that we want to have an approach that is adaptable to all city sizes, countries, and climate. A global approach, but adaptable. The first thing we want to do also is identification of which districts should be aimed at and all the stakeholders. I insist, compared to what I heard this morning, we think that all potential stakeholders should be in the discussion from the very beginning, from the citizens to the investors. It's really important to work together in the thinking from the earliest stages of the exploration of the project. Also, as we want citizens to be immediately involved, we would like to start with the public consultations locally called Dream My Neighborhood, where people could relatively quickly give their inputs. I think if we ask inputs from the citizens too late, we cannot adapt anymore. So we strongly believe that this public consultation stage from the very beginning is a very good proof to have people getting involved to the maximum. I start now with the newest approach from things that you have heard already before. It's this bioclimatic approach. Bioclimatic approach to the district planning, because indeed energy savings, they start from the district planning. The way you will adapt the shape of the buildings, the number of the buildings, the position of them, the presence of a green frame, so the parks, the trees, whatever, the blue frame, the water, water flow, river, ponds or lakes, everything is into the system to have an impact on the energy needs in terms of protection against extreme weather. And also, I insist, the green frame on management of the water flow, climate change adaptation, which means not only heat or cold, but also extreme waterfalls or things like this. It is really important to have this bioclimatic approach at the district level. These are essential elements. The second important point is the circular approach and the life cycle assessment. So we cannot anymore only deal on energy use during operation. We really have to go from resource management to the deconstruction of the built areas. We need to look at all aspects and the resource use, energy use at all different levels. This makes it really more complicated than just the operation. But if we really want to have a climate change impact, we need to look at this life cycle approach and circular approach to be saving materials, water, and energy. For what energy is concerned, I already mentioned quite a lot the savings. Of course, we want to optimize production at the local level, and I don't have the time to start going into details of all the renewable potential we can have on buildings. I would insist on the storage issue, which was present from the beginning. And we need to know that storage is not necessarily a good business because batteries are really expensive. And if the grid is just nearby, we discussed this morning that storage has really to be estimated whether needed or not. Otherwise, it can be harmful to the business model. It's not just a good idea. It's expensive, actually. So that's why we need to be careful. We can go to the next slide. The rolling out. Is it appearing?
Yes, it is appearing.
Okay, thank you very much. So the second slide on the rolling out. Obviously, when you work on a district, you need to have the mobility issues that we'll also hear. What we need is, of course, promoting soft mobility in the district that will be redeveloped, revamped, reviewed, and also, of course, the presence of electric vehicles. And here I insist they can be the solution for storage because we need this strong connection between the built environment and the electric vehicles. It is also compulsory by European directives. We need to be there. We need to take into account regulation, of course. The renovation at a large-scale approach has always been present in positive energy districts. So it's something we've been working on all the time. And this morning we talked a lot about incentives for renovation. And it was really interesting because we know that all over Europe, you do the energy renovation, but you also do bathroom or kitchen renovation. And in other countries like Bulgaria, you even have financial incentives to make it possible to have a large-scale renovation. So we have discussed together this morning all those incentives to contribute to the renovation wave that is part of the Green Deal.
Paul, we need to wrap up. We need to wrap up.
Yes, I wrap up. So, so the other elements are just the shared services approach, ensure that the public procurement and private pitches are made right to the point. And the financing is important that all the elements I talk to you now are part of this taxonomy compliance in the sense that from next year, progressively, finance will have to go towards climate and environmental sound objectives. So what I want to say is that the urban is a taxonomy compliant project, and that investors and companies that will participate will be happy, as well as the citizens who will live in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I get the judges on board? And then, first of all, Paul, thank you. You made a nice presentation. It really looked good. And don't bother about the technical hiccup in the beginning. That happens, so don't bother about that. Eelco, Rudy, Daniela, I don't know who's in charge of this one.
I would start the comments. Thank you, Paul, for presenting this. I also had the pleasure to look into the fact sheet of the positive energy district. What I like about the fact sheet is that it gives a very comprehensive overview of the possibilities of positive energy districts, the relevance. It also indicates the complexity in both societal elements like acceptance, citizens, stakeholders, and on the other side, things like legal and regulatory requirements. What I would recommend to bring it further, I read it first like a kind of project proposal, and then I was very pleased with the explanation of the field. But what I was missing at that moment is specific steps to be taken for the future to narrow things down into maybe most promising technologies which you want to tackle first. So prioritization of activities, and to think about value chains in order to make things happen. And the value chains, the reason that I say it is that, well, in the past I learned that if you want to achieve something, that in the entire chain there needs to be benefits for all stakeholders. If there's one stakeholder that doesn't make a benefit, he won't participate, and then a total plan could fail. So it needs to be carefully engineered, so to speak, that benefits are kind of equally divided, and that the weak points are being supported. And I would recommend, if you want to bring this further, to make things more specific, and focus on some of the elements that that I just mentioned. As I think PEDs are very good in their well, contribution to a carbon neutral economy. But as I said, I think the specific steps are needed, and if you break it down, I think there is more chance for individual successes.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe one last short comment from Daniela or Eelco?
Yeah, just Paul and others. I would encourage you also to have a look for cross-links with the domain of energy communities here as well.
Yeah, definitely legal aspects of that, tariff aspects in certain member states. Yeah. Paul, I assume you have access to that because Han knows a lot of that has been published also in the frame of Bridge with country overviews of tariffing schemes and stuff like that. Daniela, I see you. The meeting, yes. Yeah, Daniela, I see you want to add one more thing, and then we wrap up and move to Pierre. So Pierre, get ready.
Yes, just a quick recommendation, Paul. When you identify the cities that you are going to work with, I think that is very important that you study and analyze the planning that the city has in terms of sustainable energy and climate action goals. So you can also align the goals of the positive energy district to the existing planning, because that will help also finding financing options. For example, probably the city is already having, I don't know, a budget for renovation programs or for mobility investments. So it's very important that you study and work together with the cities and align your work with the goals that they have. That's what our recommendation.
Of course.
Okay, Paul, it was a good session. Thank you for that. Thank you, judges, as well. And then we're going to bring Pierre on. And Pierre is going to dive with us in the co-creation with local stakeholders using digital twins for integrated planning. Pierre, you have 5 minutes to pitch the idea.
Very good. I'm going to share my screen. And Clara, du Mongo. Jag kan kanske till. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Ah, perfect. Perfect.
The slides should be ready, are ready as well. Can you go in full screen mode as well?
Okay, I have 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm very happy to be here and presenting my pitch. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our ideas. All the ideas, the contributors of the session, the co-creation for local stakeholders using digital twins for integrated planning. There was a lot of passionate discussions. My name is Pierre Major, and I've just finished my PhD, or I'm about to finish a PhD on digital twins and virtual prototyping and graphical digital twins, so it's spot on. For those who don't know what a digital twin is, a graphical digital twin, I have prepared 2 videos. Here is a video of a project we have done, OSC, Augment City, with NTNU and the city of Geiranger. The city of Tonda, where Geiranger is, where we have visualized the traffic, the pollution, and the amount of cruise ships coming. And so it was a project where you had the industry from the tourism, the hotel industry, you have the citizens, you have the politicians who have to make decisions about the situation, the future of the situation. And by the way, by 2026, the fjord will be, it will be forbidden to have emission in the fjord. So you will have to have electrical ships, which is a problem because no cruise ship can go in the fjord now because the technology is not there. Okay. So another very interesting idea why graphical digital twins are useful. I'm just showing it's people don't understand what sea level rise is, because when you say, oh, it will rise 10 centimeters, if you show them the effect of a storm flood on the city, so here from 0 to 2 meters, suddenly you begin to understand that you need to move out of the city, of the coastal areas. And around the world, the top 81 cities, 60% are in front of the coast. So it's a major problem. And for the people in the street, it's much easier to see a video like that, which is really realistic and can be also taken from the live feed. It's really easy to understand, so we can drive actions. Another idea is also here we can show the energy quality of buildings with the old house in blue and in yellow, and the newer houses in blue. So it's a digital twin can show information that is gathered in big data in simulation, and so it's easier to understand. So
Pierre, can you try to wrap up?
Yeah. Very good. So the key partners are, of course, the cities. As the citizen, the academia, as shown before, and we can put a lot of different data providers from the national institutions, from the local institutions, from the entrepreneurs, and from the enterprises around, so that they can share the data for the common good. The key activities is making the situation understandable for people in the streets, in the city centers, and the decision makers, so they can take the best decisions. And the key resources, it's the data. You have a lot of data everywhere. And you have a lot of digital elevation models representing the data, as you have seen in Geiranger, and you can put on a lot of pollution data, traffic data, and stuff like that. And so it is useful to make participatory flooding because it will save time, because you see the problem just 10 years before they arise. So you have time to plan. And so you have time to explain to people how the situation will be in the future. It will save time and money. The customer segments, there are municipalities and regional authorities. And what's their value proposition? They will save money. And the cost structure actually reallocating their resources. For example, having a digital twin coordinator responsible for gathering all the data from different silos, and then making workshops to show and share the data. It's something that they already have, just it's nascent. And we have seen a very big pull for this kind of projects. So we are not pushing the markets, it's the markets that ask us to do this kind of methodology. And the revenue streams for the municipalities, where of course it comes from savings, but also talking to the cities. If you have the municipalities talking to entrepreneurs, they can also attract the best enterprises, so they can attract the best people or retain the best people in the cities. And it's important for smaller cities like Öresund. Yeah, that's what I pitch for today.
Okay, thank you. I really liked the visual aspects of it. It was a bit tight to fit it in 5 minutes, but I think it was nice as well. I would like to bring the judges on, and I think Eelco, this is probably closest to your area of expertise.
So first of all, thank you so much, Pierre, for an excellent presentation, and definitely the visual element contributed greatly to it. And what also helps is I actually do work for DNV and a Norwegian company, so I do know some of the areas you presented just now. And also, I just wanted to encourage you to have a look at assurance of digital twins. So how can we make sure that the algorithms and especially the underlying data are a fair representation of reality, because that's what we're talking about. And also not only reality, but if you start to simulate towards the future, what the level of trust you can assign to outcomes of the digital twin simulations, especially if the maturity of the digital twin becomes higher, because you can have descriptive digital twins, obviously. Then you can, the next level might be diagnostic digital twins, and then you might have predictive digital twins, and even to the level of autonomous digital twins, who are basically, digital twins that operate by themselves and make the infrastructure in the city work based on the parameters coming in through sensor systems in the city. All of those levels require a certain level of assurance of both the data as well as the algorithms. So I do encourage you to have a look into that, because it will also inspire confidence from the citizens themselves. As soon as they understand and trust the software and the data that you have been exposing them to, it will help you greatly in involving them and engaging them into the decision making. So that is probably what I wanted to say to you. I definitely want to concur with you in terms of the benefits for the city, because they are so obvious and very, very, very clear. I never thought about the retention of talent into cities having a digital twin. That was new to me, so thank you for that. I never thought of that argument. Definitely for smaller towns up north in Norway, that might help. Maybe even for yourself. And in closing, I just want to almost congratulate you with your PhD, because I'm sure you will do a good job there.
Thank you.
Okay, Daniela, you can wrap up.
Yes, thank you very much, Pierre, for the wonderful presentation. I just like to tell you that for me it was very impressive to see that you are also targeting the adaptation component of integrated climate action on a city level. That is something that for cities is very valuable, because one of the key challenges when doing climate action planning is this scenario making for adaptation, okay? Because for mitigation it's much easier. You get the energy consumption, mobility, and modeling is something that cities are more familiar with. But when it comes to adaptation, cities are starting to do this journey. So, of course, in Europe, we have a lot of cities that are already doing modeling, but others are just starting. So it's a wonderful technology. I really hope that you will be able to take it forward to a lot of cities. Covering the issue of climate adaptation and resiliency now is in the top of the agendas of city sustainability, and also is aligned with the work that the Covenant of Mayors is doing, because we foster integrated mitigation and adaptation action in cities. So thank you very much.
Okay, then we wrap up this session, and we would like to thank you all and invite Sean and Sotiris. And Sean and Sotiris are going to pitch the topic of valorization of personal data. Well, and invite Sean and Sotiris.
Hello. We're from the...
Sean and Sotiris are going to pitch the topic of valorization of personal data. Well, and invite Sean and Sotiris.
Hello.
Hello
there. We're from the... Sean and Sotiris.
Just a question. Do you have the B2Match site open somewhere? Or is it here? Maybe could you close the tab? We have a double echo.
I'm just getting...
I think it's better now.
Basically, I can just hear 28 other voices.
Yes, Sean, do you have the B2Match
now
site
that's better.
open? No. Sean, can you hear me?
I can hear echo and echo and echo.
Maybe Sotiris, you can start, because I think there is a technical problem on Sean's side, because Sean has opened the B2Match site somewhere potentially in another tab. So at the moment, we cannot hear Sean because I removed him from stage, but maybe you can start and Sean could close the tab at the B2Match, because the double echo is coming from himself and his computer.
Sure. So I will try to replace Sean, though I don't know part of his presentation, but okay, he's logging in. So Sean.
Now, Sean, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Replace Sean.
Sean, just listen to me very quickly. Just a second. You have a B2Match tab somewhere open. So the technical sound problems are coming from your side.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better, but I can hear myself in the background.
Can you hear me now?
So unfortunately, we have some trouble with your sound. Is it okay to mute yourself and let Sotiris do the talking? Mute us in. Okay. Would it be okay, Sotiris, to I leave Sean on stage, but it would be good if you could do the pitch, because he seems to have technical problems with the sound, and I cannot solve those because it's on his side of the computer.
Okay. I will try to briefly state our what we did also in the previous session and our idea. So the main idea for our pitch and of the overall project that we're bringing on board is to let citizens actually take back control of their own data, and not only that, but to let citizens benefit and gain from their own data, which at the moment they share quite freely and without considering what sharing is, without getting any real compensation other than some sort of free services and other than some personalization, which could be, let's say, valuable to them. Nevertheless, the value that is attributed to them from companies that utilize this data is not at the same amount that these companies gain. So the overall idea here is to foster some ideas and bring forward technologies that would allow smart cities to actually engage with their citizens and any other relevant stakeholders and persuade them to actually share over a platform, a data sharing platform or a marketplace, their personal data, without, however, them losing control of their data, losing control and losing control of how they share their data, and of course by bringing together other stakeholders that could actually compensate those users for what they're offering. So we're not talking about collecting and sharing data for free, but we're talking about giving back the power to users, to citizens, to actually decide what they do with their data, in what sense, how they get compensated, and so on. So this actually implies a lot. Many things have to, be done from a legal perspective. Many things have to be done from a technical perspective, and actually also many strategies have to change and alter. Nevertheless, this could be an approach that could benefit actually cities and anyway public authorities and the interested stakeholder in order to engage directly with such citizens or group of citizens, either in an anonymized or non-anonymized manner, and actually get the data they need and run the analysis they need without going into third parties that are at the moment able to grab personal data, work on them, and actually provide services without compensating the real users, which actually, puts us into a vicious circle situation where data is misused, the trust of people is lost, and eventually less data is shared or data of low value is shared, and people move gradually away from the data sharing movement when it comes to personal data. So in terms of technologies, what we are working on for that is to build, let's say, a platform which is operated by some trusted partners or authorities, and on the other side, supply the different citizens with what we call personal apps. This could be smartphone applications, desktop application, or whatever you can think of, which actually grab and collect the data of the citizens and provide to the citizens, we said, the control to release this data towards the cloud-based platform, always explaining to them in a clear, simple and trusted manner who can have access to those data, under which conditions, which are the licenses, and of course, which will be the compensation. So all these things, which we call a data sharing configuration that comes from the side of the citizen, is actually stored on a blockchain in order to, have an immutable ledger that could be used in audit cases in case, something goes wrong and somebody actually disagrees with what happened to the data or to the license. And on the other side, we have stakeholders like companies, cities, whoever would like to access this data that could actually search for this data, grab them, and provide the appropriate compensation back. On that point, we are also developing that with many privacy and security guarantees. So, for example, anonymization could run, encryption is in place so that interested data seekers can run queries over encrypted data without revealing the identity of citizens, and so on. So I think I'm over in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so it's longer due to the echo problems, but I think
it's okay. You took over really well. So Sean, I don't know how you have been teaching Sotiris, but you did a good job. So thank you both. I'm gonna bring the judges in. It feels a bit like the voice of Europe now. So judges, please.
Well, I would like to start a comment. So Thierry, thanks for your interesting presentation under difficult circumstances, I would say. Fortunately, you also read the fact sheet. I think it's a very interesting subject. It is relatively new to me in terms of the let's say the valorization aspect of the data. But I think it is a very good idea to work on this in order to well, improve the willingness of citizens of sharing data as long as they have control over it and then enhancing the quality of those data for all services that you could provide. One thing I want to mention before I forget is that I saw a lot of similarities of your use, the proposed use of data from your side with the Gaia-X pitch in the beginning of this pitch session. So it might be interesting to exchange ideas. What I think to bring it further, something I was missing a little bit is in which sectors would be the most use of these user data. You mentioned a few would be planning of mobility and health data. I can understand those, but on the social gain that is somewhere mentioned, I found it not well developed. What would be further social gains from your approach? So maybe you can improve on that. And I was lacking some stepping stones of how to get there, because I have the feeling there is a very multifaceted issue about technology and trust and legal constraints and willingness of the citizens. So I think a diagram to explain the current situation and how to get to something new, that would help, I think, understanding financiers or people that you address for help a lot in maybe their appetite to support you. So I wish you a lot of luck with that, and thank you for the presentation.
Okay, then we would like to wrap up. Daniela, do we have anything to add? Yeah.
Yes, sorry that I am adding a lot, but I love all the projects and just what I wanted to mention about the data part also. I will also encourage you to work a little on having all this data, like for 2 levels of work towards integrated climate action. That's why I'm here. So first, of course, how this data can be used by cities, of course, but for planning aspects, okay? For planning and long-term planning, doing scenarios of energy, scenarios of emissions, a scenario of environmental quality management. This data can be useful for them, but also how to take this data, you mentioned for citizens and startups, but especially I would like to mention to you that it's important to bring this data to non-experts data people, okay? Because there's a lot of organizations on a local level that are civil society organizations or NGOs that are not experts on data, but are experts on different components of the sustainability of a city, for example, mobility or health or air quality management, but they don't have the skills to use or to manage this data. So just to make it available also for them, that is an important thing, because sometimes only the experts on data can handle this data. So just to think about it, how this data can be available for non-data experts. That's all.
Yeah.
Maybe if I may just briefly. So again, here, as I said with the previous pitch as well, I think it will be essential that to provide third-party assurance for such a platform. So if you want to entice or seduce citizens to cautiously share their personal data, it is essential that there's a governance structure and that there's some third-party assurance to instill trust in the platform as well. So do think about that. Yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. So we're now gonna have the judges vote on the best pitch available. And meanwhile, I would like to first of all thank you already, all of you, for pitching your ideas. Thank you for the great work you delivered today. And then I would like to invite Jorg, because we've been asking a lot of questions from our audience today and from our stakeholders. So Jorg, now I have the right to ask questions to you. Be ready. So far, we've done something completely different. As you said this morning, also in the introduction section, this is really the first time we try to bring these massive amount of work from the action clusters closer to the marketplace, closer to the market as such. What is your impression so far?
Well, first of all, I think I should repeat what I said this morning. I would like to thank to all the brave pitchers that they dare to speak in public on their projects, suggesting them, and also to listen to what the judges say about the projects. Because I know that sometimes when you have your own project, it's a bit like an own baby, a bit like, you know, your brain's child, and you don't want that anybody says anything negative about it. So that takes a lot of, you know, braveness to do that. So that is for sure great. And I would also at this stage thank all the pitchers, all the people who have taken part in these fact sheet workshops for their great work, and also for, you know, giving an insight in what they think could make all the way to be finance. And that's already a win, I think, for today. The other thing is that I find that we have, with the pitches we saw, with the workshops we saw, nicely covered the whole area of smart cities as it is now. Whereas that even that is a limited area, but we have, I think, nicely covered. We have covered data and digital assets. We have covered energy, mobility and transport. We have covered some stuff on climate mitigation and adaptation. We have covered also, to some extent, regulation. We have covered, you know, standards, KPIs, and all these sort of areas which glue everything together in the smart city or in the urban context, which is a very complex ecosystem. And it just shows that you can actually not deal just with one part of the city and totally neglecting the other one. So that is already a very, for me, strong confirmation of the lesson we learned over the past few years. And maybe I should stop here, because I think I'm doing more than just answering your question, Lynn.
It's fine. I actually, I also like the fact that we had this transport and then the digital aspects and then the positive energy districts and bringing that all together. So I think that indeed was a success. And also, if I look at the number of participants, I can say that this was indeed a very successful event. Now, once we've had this, I think it's really important to shape further. And I mean, we're outside of the explore phase, but to really shape and to lead to deals. How can you say, because what we had this morning was where we mentioned the renovation wave and the initiatives for cities and stuff like that. How do you see this may be being leveraged or broadened to the other initiatives or picked up by the other initiatives?
Well, I think it might be difficult to sort of enable or create some kind of broad institutional link across the whole commission. However, we have this mission on climate neutral and smart cities, which is per se an exercise where many DGs are involved. DGs with an interest in the urban context for many different reasons and for many different with many different angles and viewpoints and points of departure. And that is already that's a great thing per se. So what I see here is actually what we do on the marketplace end can really help to bring about the target of that mission, which is nothing less than 100 climate neutral cities by 2030. That's a heck of a big target, really. I'm not saying that the marketplace is going to make the big difference, but what is sure is that we cannot do without private financing. That seems clear, at least to me, and that the Smart Cities Marketplace kicks in with help on leveraging things which were implemented, replicating those with solid business models, which do not necessarily depend on funding. So really getting to that point of creating an actual market for these solutions, and also creating the trust of investors and also companies in that market. And then at the same time, equipping cities with the necessary confidence and knowledge to actually act as a market participant rather than just reacting on what's happening. So that, I think, is still something we can really contribute, because we have a lot of evidence and project examples to share. And what has been shown today is just another brilliant example for that, that vast knowledge which is around, and this strategic thinking actually around cities, which is really great. And that is sometimes really almost happening without the influence of the Commission here, which is also great, because it all falls nicely into place. It all matches very well. So there's not somebody sort of steering people into the direction of the Commission or the other way around. It's just, there seems to be a common sense when it comes to cities at the moment, and that's really great. And that's where the Smart Cities Marketplace can support and trigger further replication and so on.
Yeah, what I see as well is that, I mean, you often see the same actors coming back and the same experts coming back, but I think we also need to see our lighthouse cities that are mainly initiated by EU-funded projects to turn more into ecosystems rather than into a lighthouse project, which is a project, while it's a full ecosystem and it could further develop as an ecosystem. Could you see that being something we might want to pick up in the next lighthouse calls, for example?
Well, absolutely. Whether we will have these proper lighthouse calls or not, that we are going to see, of course. I mean, quite frankly, we are at the moment sort of finalizing the implementation plan for the mission. And where I understand most of the, let's say, Smart Cities budget will be allocated. So let's say any upcoming calls will sort of be steered and coordinated by that. Let's call it work program implementation plan. But what I do see, of course, is that, yes, we should in any case pick the lessons learned up from the Smart Cities and Communities Lighthouse projects. That's, first of all, it's a massive community. We have 124 cities involved there. And on top of that, 124 cities with real experience, with real hands-on and tangible experience and evidence. So it's a really great and valuable asset to use in order to drive the market further. And that was also the initial idea with the Lighthouse program, that we actually do some funding, but really use it as some kind of seed funding to trigger a process, rather than just having a row of projects which end after 4 years and then that's it, But exactly that didn't happen, and I'm very happy about that. We now have also a new initiative, a new platform in place, Scale, taking care about the Lighthouse projects and really trying to, to harvest all that great knowledge and also bring that into the picture alongside the valuable lessons learned and knowledge from our action clusters initiatives. So it really all nicely falls into place, in my view. There's no distinction, I should say, also when it comes to the usability or the value added by all these different projects and ideas. It's all helpful because every little bit helps, and we should really all support this common narrative. As you say, Lane, correctly, it's an ecosystem. We need to sort of, add to that ecosystem to make it work, and so that people also better understand that ecosystem in the urban context, I think.
Yeah, but I think in some of the pitches or in some of the discussions we had earlier today, these ecosystems, which in some of the countries already exist, are these multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary clusters where industry together with knowledge institutes and policy are operating together and trying to to move and advance together in pilot projects, in demonstration projects, but also in the interaction with regards to regulation and policy making, and that we could potentially use these also as enablers, really making these ecosystems. One last question, wrapping up in the next 2 minutes. We do have a massive amount of cities that we reach through our different programs, but how do we engage the smaller cities and the municipalities? Because these are also massively important in Europe.
Yes, that's a heck of a difficult question, I can tell you. And I'm very much on that. I'm very much on that same page, of course. I mean, like from a statistic point of view, if I'm not entirely mistaken, we have like 55% of the cities in Europe, at least, are small to medium sized, and then it depends a bit on the definition. So yes, we need to do something on the smaller medium sized cities. Also, language barriers play a role here.
Yes.
So we are aware of this, but I can maybe say that there is that ongoing, very fruitful collaboration with the Covenant of Mayors, which is also really pan-European, has a whole lot of smaller and medium-sized cities in the community of its signatories. There is some other initiatives also looking across the board when it comes to the sizes of the actual cities. There's Living in EU, there's Civitas. So we have actually plenty of initiatives we could potentially collaborate with, and with we could actually not use but link to in order to make aware of solutions in smaller and medium-sized cities, like telling the story how others did solve it. Pretty much what we do now. We learn something and we spread the word on how things work, and maybe also teach a lesson on what you should better not do.
Yeah, that came back today a couple of times. So really spreading what worked, but also, and that's what I tried to pitch in just before we started the pitches as well. Like, what do we remember from things that went wrong? And looking at it afterwards is also fun to look at what went wrong. I think that we are ready to go back to our judges. So I would like to get them back. Indeed, thank you. And then I leave the floor to the three of you.
Well, as the chairperson of the jury, I can say that we have done our deliberations. Actually, what we did, we clearly set up a qualitative scoring system. What we did, we looked at a number of components of the presentation as well as the fact sheets. But first of all, I would like to thank all of the participants and presenters for their great efforts, because it was a sort of almost a tie, in the sense that the scores were quite close to each other. So first of all, we looked at market potential. So the presentation identifies an unfulfilled need or problem. There's a clear definition of the target market, and across that one, I think all of the ideas scored quite high. So indeed, all of the presentations were addressing a gap in the marketplace or some sort of unfulfilled need. Also looked at value proposition. So how does the solution offered or suggested compare to maybe existing solutions in the marketplace? What are the USPs associated with the solution or the project being presented? We also looked at the clarity of the business model, and that's also why we asked for a business model canvas in a sense. And maybe it was a bit strict there because we already knew that the presentations could never be immediately submitted to an investor. So we were sort of quite lenient on that criterion. Also looked at okay, does the presentation and does the fact sheet actually identify what the next steps might be for to drive the solution to a next level of maturity. And we looked also particularly through Daniela, to what sort of contribution does the solution or the project have towards city sustainability, which is clearly an element of maybe non-tangible benefits, or benefits that could be monetized but are not yet monetized. And finally, we also looked, because I liked it, at the quality of the presentation itself, because you also need to understand who's behind the solution and what is the team who's driving this. With all that in mind, I'm happy to announce that the presentation coming from Norway about digital twins was actually the clear winner of this round of pitches. So they are then entitled to enjoy the company of the matchmaking team of the Smart Cities Marketplace, to do a workshop together, to further advance the maturity of the idea so that it becomes closer to any form of a third-party investment into the solution. Now, that isn't to say that we're not there for the others, because we are there for the others, and definitely we're always on call. And if any of the other presenters wants to have an engagement with us, we're here to help. Because, as I said, the pitches really provided an insight into some very, very interesting ideas that do fulfill a gap in the marketplace. So happy to help those as well. But indeed, the prize goes to Norway this time. Thank you. So Pierre, so you're a lucky person.
Yes, thank you very much. Very appreciated. I think that's a pity that the others do not get the opportunity to get the pitch with a coaching pitch with you. All the ideas were very interesting, and I think you see all the potential you have with those initiatives, and I think I don't want to speak for myself, but I think what we do with Digital Twins is we gather all those projects together and show the value for the citizens, because it's not always visible, and I think that's the key aspects. But I think all the other projects are really, really good. Yeah. So when do we meet?
Whenever we're coming to Norway. No, no. We can set up a meeting anytime soon if you want. So let's take that offline and set up something because you don't have to be alone. You can invite your whole team, obviously.
Yes. Perfect.
All right. So I dare to take over at this stage again, if everybody's happy with that. I hope at least. So Pierre, congratulations. But as already said by Ilko, I think our matchmakers are there to help everyone having that idea and want to push that to the market with the help of our investors. I think that's very much the purpose. But I guess that today Pierre is deserving a bit of the limelight here since he won this little competition. But again, I'd like really to thank everyone who was taking part. I would like to thank our judges also for being brave and for making a decision who is the winner. That might also not be easy at times. And I would also like to thank the organizing team at this stage, really, the people behind the scenes making it all work, the Smart Cities Marketplace team. I would also like to thank Judith Bosboom, who was doing a bit the coordination behind the scenes for the action clusters and initiatives. So that's highly appreciated and finally made this event really work as it worked. Yeah, with this, I would simply say, yeah, again, also thank you to everyone who joined us. I mean, we have impressive numbers from this morning. I have a few numbers here, which were kindly sent by the said excellent team to me. So I'm not telling any lies. So we had like more than 200 registered people and 80 people really actively involved in the plenary session this morning, plus 157 people attending the workshops. That's great. That's fantastic. So this shows that there is a clear interest in how to drive projects to the market. It's really great. And even more, with our 3 judges still online here, we really can make sure that these solutions sort of tick the boxes when it comes to climate, when it comes to energy, transport, mobility, and many other aspects like circular economy and so on. So I think this is a model we should follow up on, and we should continue with that. And also the registrations to our next masterclass show that there is interest, which I'm very happy about that, I should say at this point. So let me close this workshop with also, of course, making you aware of what's next. So we have this fantastic matchmaking event today, but we will also have a Virtual Covenant of Mayors Investment Forum, which is actually about to start on 15 June. And the good news is that we are going to continue with the deal meetings until a day before that investment forum. You can join us there as well, of course, and you should. We also will have a session there, which is called ESCOs as the key tool in achieving energy efficiency targets for Europe. An interesting thing, but also the entire event might be very interesting to all of you. And then we would have the virtual Urbis Smart City Fair on 2nd to 4 June. As you might remember, yes, last year we've been there with the Smart Cities Marketplace, having our then still called General Assembly. But this year we will have our next big event, which is the Smart Cities Marketplace Forum, as an official partner event of the Green Week. And that is going to happen on 9 and 10 June, again with matchmaking opportunities, again with many opportunities to get in touch with our action clusters. And of course, thank you for showing that slide, Sabine. We have the EU Green Week, which is a week before. During that Green Week, we'll have a stand, a virtual stand. We will have a so-called networking session, and I have the pleasure to present that networking session. And then, of course, finally, as already said, on 9 and 10 June, you can join us for highly interesting panels, workshops, and, of course, further matchmaking meetings. I should also mention at this stage that we are very happy that we have Commissioner Kadri Simpson with us. She's going to open the floor on the first day, on 9 June, with a keynote, and that will then be followed by 2 high-level panels on the first day. We'll have another high-level panel on the second day, on 10 June. So a lot of interesting stuff, and I really hope to see you all there. Now, I don't know whether there's anything left to say other than thank you all again. This was really great, and I'm very happy that we have all these great stories, and should say at this moment also, of course, that we are going to share the outcomes of this meeting broadly via the Marketplace website, and then maybe also via partner websites such as the Covenant of Mayors and so on. So stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourself and your friends and families, and see you maybe on 9 to 10 June or during the Covenant of Mayors Investment Forum. Thank you very much for staying with us, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Ciao.